Thank you to our strategic alliance sponsors, Soft4, Companion, Ellis Retail, and Microsoft. Hello and welcome to this very first episode of Women in Dynamics, the YouTube channel and the podcast show where we inspire you with stories and insights from businesses and individuals from all over the Microsoft Dynamics community. I'm your host, Søren Alexanderson, and today I'm super excited to talk to Vicky Critchley, our chairperson of Women in Dynamics. Full disclaimer, I'm a member of the board of Women in Dynamics. I also work for Microsoft as a product manager. Now, let's go to the interview and talk to Vicky. Enjoy. So today we have Vicky with us. Vicky is the chairperson for Women in Dynamics. Hello, Vicky. Nice to see you.
Hello, Søren. Nice to be here. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
So today is International Women's Day, and we thought it was going to be a perfect time to launch our new podcast and YouTube channel. So to start with, we thought it would be great to talk to you. And being the chair of Women in Dynamics, could you put a few words on what motivated you to get started to take on that role?
That's easy. For my sins, I've been in Dynamics for 18 years. That's a long time, isn't it? 18 years. Yeah. Anyways, so when you go to events and you're in and around the community, I knew I was in the minority. So when I set up my own business, I thought, what could I possibly do to be able to alter that dynamic within my own business? So to really focus on diversity and make sure that we're a little bit different. So Women in Dynamics came out of, what about if we did this for the whole of the community? So to really focus on making Dynamics an attractive place to work for women, which it is. It's there's lots of different variations of types of roles, so it shouldn't, in fact, be very male dominated, but back then it was. So yeah, that's where it all came from, is running my own business and wanting to make a change within my business, and then thinking, why not go big and do it for a whole community instead?
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. Could you tell me why, like, what's that worked? How has that worked for your business? Like, is that something you feel that you see on the bottom line, being a more diverse company?
Yeah, definitely. I think with a more diverse team, you get lots of different ideas, and that's not necessarily represented on the bottom line. You can't easily see it, but you can feel it in the business, that you get different viewpoints. There's a lot more ideas. There's a lot more feeling of belonging in the company because everyone feels accepted. So yeah, it's not exactly tangible, but you can't see it on an Excel spreadsheet, but you can definitely feel it in the business. And the business, well, we won Partner of the Year twice and were runners up twice in what we did. So we were really pushing the bar, and I think that's a lot of it is down to having lots and lots of ideas around the table and people feeling that they were doing something special.
Yeah, and I think we would like to feel or like to think that diverse, like the whole diversity and inclusion um, initiative also plays a part in that, like you becoming partner of the year. So, as a chairperson, what are your sort of key roles and key jobs inside Women in Dynamics, other than being a role model, obviously?
Yeah, I think myself, obviously, I try to come up with new ideas myself to help business owners that are similar to myself, help the message land, I suppose. And it takes different tactics to be able to try to speak to a whole community. It's not a one size fits all. One method of learning isn't the same to address everyone. So my role is to make sure that we're thinking out the box, that we're get our messages landing, that we're focusing on the right things. So, but I have a really amazing team behind me. So I do relatively a small amount where they do all the hard work.
Right. So, and do you feel that the culture that you started with sort of Bamboo Cloud, that you could continue that journey within Pax8 as well?
I do, yeah. So I think the culture of coaching and being very intentful for women in Pax8 is something that, even though I'm super busy at Pax8, if I can carve out time to help the women in the business, specifically younger women in the organization, I think the more experienced women have a lot to offer entry level women into a business, which technology is still predominantly male dominated. So I try to carve out time to help the younger members of Pax8. I'm part of their board as well. So we have a diversity board called Power, and I'm part of that too. So I help and coach women at Pax8 as well as doing women in dynamics. So yeah, it's an important part of my work life, and without it, I wouldn't think that I'm doing everything that I have to offer. So yeah, it's an important part to me. So I don't want to give that up.
That sounds like something that's been sort of formalized inside Pax8. Like, does this go for all the senior women there, that they're sort of helping junior talent?
Uh, Not everyone, but anyone who raises their hand, and it's actively promoted within inside Pax8 to raise your hand, not just for gender diversity, but lots of different other causes as well. So we, as an exec team or anybody of any seniority level, male, female, it doesn't really, they are proactively asked to raise their hand to help with anything to do with diversity and inclusion, and charities as well. So it's
Right.
it's promoted within the business.
That's great. So, can you share maybe what are some of the initiatives that we do inside Women in Dynamics to sort of help diversity and inclusion within the community? Like, why are we here? What is it that we actually help with?
We want our primary audience isn't, in fact, the women in the community. We have a lot of women in the community that follow us, but our actual primary person that we're trying to talk to is the owner of a dynamics business. So that person is where most of our content is addressed to. So things like what we do online, where we highlight role models, we highlight company spotlights. So we try to work with companies who have great initiatives themselves. So they we highlight their good work, and in a hope that the managing director or the CEO of another dynamics business will look at the information that we have online and take some tips. Say, oh, that's something easy that I could implement in my business. Because if we had 100 CEOs take one small tip, that will make a huge change. So we're not asking for everyone to completely change their businesses. That's far from it. Just slight tweaks to the how you show yourself online, how you recruit, those types of things. I think small incremental changes, if we all made them, would make a massive difference. So yeah, it's but our primary audience at Women in Dynamics with all the initiatives is the business owner.
That makes sense because, of course, you could argue that things can start like a movement can start also from the ground up, but things have to be facilitated from the top as well in order to sort of create real change.
Yeah, it kind of points in the middle, doesn't it? Is that there can be initiatives from the ground up, but without the exec support, that's going to go by the wayside eventually. So I think it's increasing the importance level so that these ground level swells can actually happen within the business. So if we can convince the owners and the execs of those businesses that this is a great idea and something that they should be very intentful about, then things will naturally start rolling from there. So, and it is, we've been going for a few years now. So, as you know, Soren, we worked together on this. I can feel that there's a sea change. From when we first did our first event to now, there's been a huge change. So I think lots of businesses reach out to me to tell me about what they've been doing, and I think it is the importance level has been raised. Now it's kind of back to what are the easy things that we can all implement as in the community that will make the difference in the long term. But I think things are starting to change.
I think you're right, and I think there's a lot of this that's about the day-to-day small things, like in how each of us behave and how we talk and how we sort of behave towards each other. And so, do we have like? Can you enlighten me on what kind of tools and frameworks do we make available for the businesses that we're trying to help progress?
Yeah, so we have our this framework. So that stands, so it's a THIS. So we try to make something as easy as possible for our members to remember. So T's for tracking. So we strongly advocate tracking diversity and inclusion figures. So because without that, the intent's really not there if you're not tracking. So same way you track financials. I think a good business also tracks diversity, and I know Microsoft does that. I know that Pax8 does that. I know that many businesses in the Dynamics community now do that. So they're very intentful about tracking their stats. H is for hiring. So we have a lot of best practice around what to put on your website, how to write job descriptions, so that we can attract a more diverse applicant pool. And that's not just for gender either, that's for everything, so that you can pick from a very diverse pool of people, including things like age. So in the I is for immersion and inclusivity. So that's like useful tips on how to make the business more culturally inclusive. So, and this is kind of some of the things that we used to do at Bamboo and Cloudwell, is make people feel like they belong. And I know that Microsoft does a really good job of doing that as well. So keeping people in the business, making them feel part of something, and there's a few things that we can help with the framework there to say, right, okay, if you do these few things, then it can help the company culture. And then S is to stop the dropout. So what we've found is that women start in our community, but then when they get to wanting a family, or maybe later on in life with things like the menopause, that's kind of where women start to, if they're not in a very understanding workplace, they'll tend to drop out at that stage, which is a real shame, because a more understanding workplace would realize the benefit of that. A more flexible environment would keep that person and stop them from leaving the community altogether. So that's something that is a real issue that we've been trying to address, especially for the last year. So so this framework is very easy to understand. We're not trying to overcomplicate our message. We're not trying to change the world. We're just trying to give business owners a few simple tips that will make all the difference to their team members, and so it's super easy.
So now that this has been going, like Women in Dynamics has been a thing for a few years now. I think you said something earlier that do you feel a change is happening? Do you feel something is moving?
Yeah, I do. I think, especially when you can feel it online, but also when we go to events, you get to speak to people like face to face. Everyone knows who Women in Dynamics is first off, and businesses proactively reach out for our help. So I feel like as I said before, it's the importance level of diversity inclusion that's changed. It was kind of a few years back, something that should be probably considered by a more progressive organization, but now it feels like something's changed, where it's the importance level is risen, so that it's kind of something that most businesses are more intentful about. So it feels different.
And it also feels uh, like consistency is key and continuation is key in that uh, we need to keep spreading the word. We need to keep focusing on the issues because it's hard. On one hand, it shouldn't be hard, like changing things, but change is hard. And when I did the a session for guys, Women in Dynamics, a session for guys session at the last Directions conference, there was a lot of questions about like this all makes sense, but how do we go about it in our daily lives? Like what can I do? Because I think, and especially this was for the male audience, and my personal take is that I don't think there are that many men who are actually opposed to having more women in tech or into this community. I just think that most people are like, sure, I support women, but what more can I do? Like that's
Yeah.
sort of the default, which is fair because we're all biased and we're all influenced by our ecosystem and surroundings and upbringing and all kinds of things and where we're born in the world and uh, whether you're male or female. But so, what are your thoughts on that sort of consistency and how we sort of keep um, keep practicing and keep being present at various conferences around the world?
I don't think the work's done until 50. Women represent just over 50% of the world's population. So in theory, not in practice, but in theory, we could get closer to 50% in our workplace. So I don't think the work's done until we're there. So I think you're right. It's like people, and I said about our main stakeholder in this is the business owner of a Dynamics business. They'll probably think the same way. It's like, this is all well and good, but how can I do any more? Like, for instance, I hear a lot of, well, I just don't get sent I use a recruiter, and I only get sent the same types of profiles. So how can I do anything about that? So I'm only picking from the same type of people that we picked from before. And I think if you do the same things, then you're going to get the same result. So you need to look somewhere else to, or alter something. That means that that small change means that there's a shift change in the business. But I think while you're just doing the same thing, then there's not going to be a change. But I don't think that consistency, I think women in dynamics will be there as long as there's still work to be done. And it is about consistency. I mean, everyone, you, me, everyone who works at Women in Dynamics to put their time in, everyone does this because they want to do it and they feel passionate about it. So the consistency has to be there because the job's not done yet. So we will still continue to go to events. We will still continue to amplify our message to business owners until the work's done, which is not yet.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I want to go back to something you said there because I think it's one of those actually fairly simple things to change. Like you said something about uh, recruiters maybe not sending the desired candidates through, and they would typically say, well, only one out of the 20 applicants were female. But then you can think about why is that? Why are there would there be no more females applying for the job? Because they're out there, so why don't they apply? And well, maybe they've seen your website. Maybe they've seen your website where it says meet the team, and it's 8 middle-aged white
Yeah,
guys, or something like that. And they would say, maybe they would think, would I fit in there? Would there ever be room for me at that board, or something like that? So you don't know what you don't know. But you can try to take an outside in sort of look at yourself, and yourself, then I mean the company, and say, how would I perceive this company? Like, what is it that we sort of exhibit, and what is it that we sort of, say to the outside world, like about who we are? Like, oh, and if not, because that's a fairly easy thing to
that's
change
that's
tomorrow.
one of the easiest things that businesses can do is alter their website, is because people looking in that door want to see themselves represented. If it's just all white guys, then they're going to think that I don't belong. So that can be age, that can be race, that can be gender, that can be all sorts of multiple things. That if you're not represented visually on that website through the imagery that you see on there, then you're not going to see that as a particularly attractive place to work. So, but that one thing is very, very easy to implement. Having different diversity on the interview panel, for instance, can really help because I really feel that if you're interviewing somebody, that the balance of selling yourself should be not on the candidate's end in the beginning. It should be on the employee end of like, you need to sell your business to this candidate and they need to feel like they belong. So having diversity on the interview panel, making sure that they see different people, types of people in the business, that can all make them feel like, yeah, I could have a successful career at this organization. So it's really easy to implement, but you have to be intentful to do it. So, but yeah, that's super
Absolutely.
easy.
Yes. So now we released this very first podcast episode and YouTube episode, and we managed to time it with International Women's Day. Does that mean something to you? Is there any like? I know this was maybe more by chance right now, but what does it mean to you?
International Women's Day.
Yes.
I think it gives me a chance to stop for a little while and just, I think, as a more senior woman, I think it gives us an opportunity to think, are we doing everything we can so that when the younger people in our businesses get to the seniority level that I'm at now, that they don't have to do this. This shouldn't be something that someone's in their 20s is having to do when they're close to 50. They shouldn't. They when they're an exec in the business, there should be other things that they're tackling, because hopefully having this day in the year means that we still keep reminding ourselves that that's really important, that we should alter things for the new track of women coming into our businesses, where we say, well, let me help you, let me give you some of the things that I've learned so that you don't make similar sort of mistakes, and give you some advice. So I think it's great to call out the great work that women do in the community and in technology, and but for specifically from a personal point of view, I think it helps remind women that are in a more senior position that there's some fresh faces coming into the community that could benefit from, I'd like to say wisdom, but it's not really wisdom, it's just advice.
But you're talking about paying it forward, basically. Like you reach a
Yeah.
certain point. How
So
can you enable other women to get to the
yeah.
same place? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just speeding things up. It's kind of when you run a business and somebody says, "Oh, how did you do this and how did you do that?" What you're doing is you're advising them on how to not make the same mistakes you did, or to speed up a particular process, because that the advice allows you to do that. And I think it's the same when it comes to coaching women how to be in a business. Is you can speed up their promotion, you can speed up the way that they feel valued in the organization by imparting some of your tips and tricks, like what we want to give to business owners in the community. I think International Women's Day makes me think about the women that I coach, and just allowing them to shortcut some of the things that so they don't have to go through everything that we went through.
So I suspect that what you say there comes from a place, like from recognition that you've had challenges in your career by being a woman in a fairly technology dominated and
Yeah.
also male dominated area. Like, do you have some like do you have some examples of some challenges you've
I
had through? You probably have many, but like
have some
some
real horror
challenges.
stories, but I'm not going to go into that. I think what I didn't have a female role model at all. I've never
Hmm.
had one. Still to this day, because when I was early in career, my role models were all men. Some of them are good, some of them not so good. And I think the thing that I really struggled with is I tried to act like what they did. And I don't think I found my authentic self until I was a lot later. I was trying to be something that I wasn't, and would hide some of my authentic self behind a work persona. And because I thought that's what going to work was about, is that I'd have to divide my authentic self,
Hmm.
the one that went home to my daughter, and the one that was at work, were two different women. And what I advise women that I coach now is to try and get to your authentic self quickly, because it shows confidence, it shows who you are, and it's not, you shouldn't hide behind a work persona. Just be who you are, and that
Hmm.
should, people should, you should be able to open yourself to show people who you are, and not be copying someone else um who's your like direct counterpart, because you feel like you're in competition with them. I think Yeah, it's getting there faster. So improving but you can only do that if you're confident. So I
Hmm.
didn't find my confidence until later. So the I think it's about finding your confidence and being your authentic self quicker, and that will absolutely pay dividends because you're
Hmm.
comfortable, you're confident, you know what you want from your work life, and the people around you will see that you're very comfortable. So yeah,
Hmm.
loads of things that I advise them on, but that really stands out for me is I don't feel like I was my authentic self for a very long time, but people need to get there.
That's a great piece of advice, and it actually reminds me when I started Microsoft. The CEO at Microsoft Denmark at the time, Marianne, she came into, I think we had sort of a 3 days new employee orientation, and she came into the room and said, "Look, you're all here because you have something that Microsoft wants. We hope you can resist the big machine, the big wheels of the machine as long as possible." And I guess whenever you have a group, a company, or some kind of organization, there's a risk of assimilating everyone in to become the same,
Yeah,
you know, piece of the meatloaf, basically. So I think it's super good advice. Try to be yourself as much as you can, and it really goes beyond gender or anything else. Like you have like you're the sum of your surroundings and your upbringing, and it has shaped you in whatever form, and bring that
don't
to
hide it.
work as much
Yeah,
as possible.
yeah, don't hide the difference. So if you
Mm.
feel that you're different, good. Don't
Yes.
hide it. And I felt like I'd have to fit into try to act like one of the men in the business, but I'm
Mm.
not. Don't it's if you I think it's around being confident enough to celebrate the difference in who you are. So bring have bring that authentic self to work. And I think COVID really helped with this with a lot of people is that this whole the work persona versus home persona. Suddenly in COVID, we were all taken out of the office, and then everyone's in the kitchen with their children and like dogs barking and those types of things. And you can't,
Yeah.
you couldn't act when you're in your kitchen working with your family doing schoolwork next to you. You kind of had those two things had to clash together at that point. So I think that really helped people at work drop some of the work persona. And I think that helps you bring your authentic self to work and be a lot more comfortable with the difference. If you're different and you feel different, that's a good thing for my in
Mm.
my you've got to you've got to celebrate that and run with that because
Mm.
that's who you are.
I love that. And I actually think that it's also good. I mean, it is good for business, and that's been demonstrated in so many ways. Like, even just things like when you build products or sell products, but especially if you actually build products. So I can say for us in Microsoft that, like, we fully recognize that how can we build products for people with disabilities, or if we don't have everyone represented within the company, it's the same thing. How can you
Got-
truly understand and empathize with and serve your customers if you don't have them represented within your organization? So if you want to sell to the entire world, if that's your marketplace, well, you need to have the entire world represented within your organization as well.
You do, and you match. And I think that more and more customers, when they look at you, find those that if you aren't very diverse and you don't match them, that it is part of their criteria these days. So a lot of back when I had Bamboo, a lot of businesses would like it that we had a female CEO. They knew that diversity was important to us as a whole business, and that was a good thing for them. So I think it does help business. You can't see it on the line on the bottom line, but you can definitely feel it when you're doing day-to-day business. So but I think yeah, it's and you can't, unless people bring their authentic selves to work and show that difference, then sometimes you don't even know it's there. So I think if people can do more of that and be more real, then the workplace can benefit greatly from that.
And maybe that can start in different places. So obviously, starting from the top, creating that safe space, that safe environment where people feel they can bring their authentic self. That's kind of a like the foundation. But it also has sort of a ripple effect. Like, and I can vouch for that personally inside Microsoft. That whenever someone, I'll use the word dares to show their authentic selves, it's contagious. So more people will do so, and then you have a culture. That's how cultures are formed, right?
Yeah, I think it's just making people the if it's from top down around that, that's okay, and it's celebrated in the business, the differences within people, that you're not trying to assimilate people, you're not trying to create cookie cutter of the same person over and over again, that the differences is important to the business, and that comes from the exec team. That is a ripple effect, because people do feel comfortable bringing their home life into work and discussing who they are as a person. And there's a power in that. There's a value to the team member, that they know that they're real. The person who they really are is the person that is valued at the organization, not a pretend version of yourself. I think it's really important to have an environment that those real people are all working together.
Right, and that's actually also something that, uh, at least from the like, it shouldn't be a thing that is hard to change as such, because it doesn't cost anything. Like, it's virtually free, so it's not, you're not bound by your budgets or anything. You can, it's just a mind shift that needs to sort of take place to say, hey, let's start celebrating these things and speak about it openly. And that's how we can impact the culture. So,
Yeah.
um, I wanna before we sort of close off, I wanna switch lanes for a second, and go back to sort of the Women in Dynamics organization. And so we're a not-for-profit organization. That means we rely a lot on sponsorships. Could you maybe put a few words on what these sponsorships mean for us and what they enable us to do?
As you know, Soren, we can't do what we need to do without those sponsorships. So, and we kind of every year start again with a new set of sponsors. Some go from year to year, but without it, we wouldn't be able to do the things that we do. So, all of our everything that we do is helped by those sponsors. I am excited, as you know, this year that Microsoft is going to be our sponsor. So I'm very, very grateful for them to be one of our sponsors this year. So, but all of our sponsors, LS Retail, have been absolutely amazing, consistently supporting women in dynamics, and I can't thank them enough for that. But so without companies being able to support us and putting their logos aside next to our logo, we wouldn't be able to do what we do, because it, these things, it costs money to be able to do these things, and we spend that money very wisely. But without their help and their support, then yeah, Women in Dynamics is no more. But thankfully, we have a lot of support in the community. So yeah.
And do you feel like, do we see that this interest has increased? Of course, you say that every year we go for sponsors, but can you add some words on that? Like, is there increased interest in becoming affiliated with Women in Dynamics?
Yeah, I think so. They're because people know what we do, and they know that we make a lot of noise. then it's great to have some brand affiliation. But I think it's back to this feeling of that there's been some changes in the community. I think the more progressive businesses, want to be able to show their support. So there's no shortage of support that from different businesses, because they know that with a small amount of money they can make a big difference. So yeah, it's we do start again, but there is a lot of support and a lot of traction in the community, and that's where it's back to consistency, right? We've got to keep going until the job's done. So and they can help us do that.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I can definitely also say that when coming to the conferences, it feels like from being something like where we were as an organization, something that was we were in a corner trying to find a box to stand on to shout the message. Now it feels like we get that center stage presence, which is just awesome, I think. And thank you so much to the directions team for giving us that stage presence. I think it's so super important that we can address everyone. I think it's also fair to extend a huge gratitude to everyone who's just lent a hand, whether it's our team, like the board and the extended team, or everyone who at conferences helps handing out T-shirts and these kind of things. It's just there's, as you say, that there's really no shortage uh, of people who wants to help in some way.
No, we are overwhelmed when we go to an event of how many people want to be able to help. And I think I think it just shows that we're doing something that people think is important. So yeah, it's businesses help, individuals help. So I think, yeah, getting on the stage to speak to everyone is super important, because back to the stakeholder, they're in the audience, and we need to speak to the people who think that diversity and inclusion isn't important.
Right. So on that note, is there anything you can share about the plans for this year? Uh,
So we're going to San Diego. So full steam ahead on that one. And then we are at Directions EMEA and the Directions Asia as well. So we've decided that we're not going to do too many events this year, but do the ones where we have the most impact. Because otherwise we spread the message too thin, but we feel like we've got lots and lots of traction at the Directions events, and if we hit all APAC, America, and EMEA, then our message will continue to land in an audience where they already know what we do. So we can continue the good work there. So yeah, 3 events this year and a whole heck of online activity.
we're going global. That's
We
amazing.
are going global. Yeah. And we're supporting Microsoft's Reskill initiative as well. So we're really helping Microsoft with all of their young person recruitment that they're doing for Business Central skills. So we'll be cropping up in all of their activities as well, mainly online. So I've got some next week to do as well. So I think that's out of all the tips I can give a business when from running my own business. If you focus on young people recruitment, then the diversity happens naturally. So you don't really, it's a natural trickle into the organization. If you can decrease the average age of your organization, diversity will happen alongside it. So it's really important for Women in Dynamics to support Microsoft in that initiative.
I think that's a great place to end on a high note, and it's a very optimistic note, and I very much like that. Um, Thank you, Vicky, for taking time to speak
No,
to me
thank you,
today
Sarah.
and participate in this very first episode of the Women in Dynamics podcast on YouTube.
Anytime at all.
Thank you so much. So where can people reach out to you if they want to learn more or get involved also with Women in Dynamics?
We can go into our website. So go to our website. I'm on there. And my Pax8 email is vcritchley@pax8.com. So yeah, get in touch.
Easy.
Easy.
Thank you so much, Vicky. It was
Thank you.
amazing to speak to you again.
Thanks, Soren.
Stay tuned for more inspiring episodes of Women in Dynamics, and make sure you subscribe to the podcast show and the YouTube channel. Thank you for watching and listening.